At MedStory, we take privacy seriously and follow all healthcare privacy laws. Some details may be changed to protect confidentiality. The views expressed are solely those of the individual speaking and do not represent the views of their employer.
What if you had to make the decision between your career or being in pain the rest of your life? Dr. Julia Rhodes was a third-year medical student when her body began to change in ways that no textbook prepared her for.
I realized that I was gaining back sensation, but what the sensation that I was gaining back was actually pain.
See, years earlier, a spinal cord injury left her paralyzed. Then one day, sensation returned, but not as a miracle, but as a torment. She developed neuropathic pain, a type of pain that doesn't come from an injury itself, but from the nerves misfiring signals like a broken alarm system. And those alarms were loud.
These episodes were completely debilitating. I would wake up and begin to cry. What was the most debilitating part of it wasn't actually the pain itself, it was the medications.
The pills prescribed for nerve pain are heavy sedatives. They slow the brain and the body down. Exactly what you can't afford when you're trying to finish medical school.
Being sedated and being tired is not something that you can do in complete medical school. So I began to have to stop taking pain medications in order to complete my rotations.
Let that sink in. She chose untreated pain over sedation. That's how committed she was to becoming a doctor. But medicine, at least as we know it, had few answers for her.
Our ways to treat pain haven't changed very much in the last couple hundred years.
The treatment she was offered? Outdated, ineffective, and isolated. So Julia did what most don't. She started digging into the science behind her suffering. And what she found out changed everything. Pain doesn't start in the mind, but it absolutely ends there.
If you stub your foot, that pain signal goes from your ankle all the way up your leg into your spinal cord. And that neuron takes it all the way up the spinal cord until the back of your brain, until your brainstem. And then in the brainstem, that's when things get really interesting.
Your spinal cord acts like a superhighway, carrying electrical signals up your brainstem, the part of your brain that filters and routes incoming information. From there, it's not a straight path. It doesn't go directly to the pain center. Instead, it visits around different parts of the brain.
It goes and travels like a ping pong ball all through your mesolimbic and so your emotional part of your brain. It travels through your memory parts of your brain, and it goes through until it reaches that frontal lobe of awareness.
In other words, by the time you know you're in pain, your brain has already asked questions like, have we felt this before? Should we be scared? And am I already stressed out?
By the time it gets back up to your frontal lobe, before you even know you have pain, that pain signal has been manipulated and changed and been splattered with so much paint that now it's an 8 out of 10. And you didn't even know that it had started out as a 3 out of 10.
And it gets worse over time. With repeated pain, the brain itself begins to change. Structures like the ventral tegmental area, which normally helps us feel reward and motivation by producing dopamine, starts to burn out.
The brain starts being in a decreased dopamine state, a hypodopaminergic state.
Translation, chronic pain patients lose the desire to get better.
One of the things that's interesting is if you think about patients in chronic pain and you tell them, you know what's really going to help? Physical therapy. And you just see their faces fall. They don't feel motivation.
I want to make one thing clear. That is not laziness. It's neurochemistry. And the damage doesn't stop there. Other brain regions like the amygdala, which manages fear, or the anterior cingulate cortex, which handles attention, and even the prefrontal cortex, which we know as the decision maker, all shrink with chronic pain. Literally. On brain scans, it can look like depression. So what did Julia do with all this knowledge? She stopped looking for one single solution and started building a 3-part plan. First, the biological. She worked with neurosurgeons to implant a spinal cord stimulator, a device that sends electrical pulses to interrupt the pain signals before they reach the brain.
That, to me, was the solution for the biological part of my pain.
Next is the psychological. She used acceptance and commitment therapy, a form of talk therapy that focuses on embracing the pain, not avoiding it. And this helps reshape her relationship with the suffering.
I was avoiding things to avoid pain. I would go to class, I would go to do my rotations, and I would come home, but I wouldn't see friends, I wouldn't do anything else because I didn't want to make that pain worse. What I learned is that I was depriving myself of the dopamine that I would get from seeing my friends. I was just preventing it from the chance to get better.
And last but not least, the social and learned experience. She changed the story she told herself. She stopped seeing the pain as a barrier and started seeing herself as powerful despite the pain. And this lesson came in a very unexpected way.
So for twice a week, I took myself into the water and paddled in a kayak with a friend. I needed to be in the water where I could ignore my lower half. When I'm paddling, I have the same capabilities as an able-bodied person. And so I didn't medicate myself before I did these activities because it was important that I felt my lower half be in excruciating pain. I could feel the strength in my arms while I simultaneously felt pain in my lower half. And I could feel myself pulling myself through this. And so I learned that I can be strong and I can be powerful even when I'm feeling pain.
Today, Dr. Rhodes teaches other doctors how to talk to patients in pain, not with promises of a cure, but with a plan for strength.
My work with you is going to help you gain the life that you feel like you're missing out on, regain the functionality that you want, and enjoy your body while that signal bleeps every once in a while.
She believes the revolution in pain treatment won't come from the next miracle drug. It's actually going to come from empathy.
I think it's not going to be the next injection or the next surgery that brings a miracle to pain treatment. I think it's going to be new understandings of how humans can treat each other that's going to help us solve a chronic pain problem.
At the time of this recording, the CDC reported approximately 51 million adults in the United States suffering from chronic pain. That's 1 out of 5 people that you know. So make sure to look around and look for signs of people that are suffering and let them know that they're not alone. Thanks for listening to the MedStory podcast, where we tell the stories of the greatest minds in science and medicine. I'm your host, Spencer Locke, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for listening to the MedStory podcast, where we share the stories of the greatest minds in science and medicine. I'm your host, Spencer Locke, with a special thanks to our executive producer, Shina May. Our music comes from Blue Dot Sessions and the Descript Audio Library. The MedStory podcast is made possible by MedStory Studios and listeners like you. So if you'd like to support us, please leave a review. It means more than you know. And if you have a story to share or want to produce a podcast of your own, reach out to us at info@medstorymedia.com. We'll see you in the next episode.